The Chicago Bulls have been among the most disappointing teams in the association for far too long. Once the leading franchise in the league, the Bulls have stumbled for the better part of this decade, as they've struggled to put together a roster worthy of bringing them back to relevancy. Now the organization has a real opportunity to set themselves up for the foreseeable future, but they must be brave in their decisions. Like most great things in the NBA, it starts in the NBA draft, and the Bulls have the 4th overall pick to try and change their future. But before we jump in, please remember that if you've enjoyed the video thus far and can't wait to find out what blockbuster trade the Bulls should go big with, then please remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons and make sure to tell your friends and family about the journey we are about to embark on. It would be easy for the Bulls to try and draft their next star, but that approach has not worked in recent years. Also, it's widely anticipated this draft class is not as talented as years previous. Due to this, GM Mark Eversley should be brave and swing for the fences on draft night by pulling off a blockbuster trade. The roster does have some nice foundational pieces to build upon, including shooting guard Zach Levine, who has transformed into one of the more underrated scorers in the league since making his way to Chicago from Minnesota. Levine is just 25 years old and thrives in the current NBA landscape centered around athleticism, three-point shooting, and instant offense. Another piece alongside Levine is Finnish-born forward Lauri Markkanen, who has displayed the potential of being one of the most productive power forwards in the league one day with his shooting ability as a stretch 4. Markkanen is just 23 years old and was one of the rare draft night success stories after the Bulls selected him with the 7th pick in the 2017 draft. Wendell Carter Jr. is another name that excites the Bulls' front office as he joins Markkanen in the front court. Carter Jr. has shown glimpses of growing into a productive piece, but his first 2 seasons in the league have been inconsistent, and he's struggled to find his feet at the next level. Lastly, the Bulls selected dynamic point guard Kobe White last campaign with the 7th pick. Similar to Carter Jr., White was up and down in his rookie season, but showed enough to believe he can be a key piece moving forward. Although the Bulls clearly have some promising players, it's evident they lack true star power, which is holding them back from competing for playoff contention in the Eastern Conference. Star power would not only assist in the development of their young guns, but also propel the Bulls into relevancy again and prevent the opportunity for their foundational pieces to get valuable experience in more important games. The Bulls front office has had difficulties in luring star talent to the franchise in recent years, but the possibility of packaging the 4th overall pick and potentially one of their rotation players to bring in a star becomes more realistic. Hypothetically, a package of the 4th overall pick and the expiring contract of forward Otto Porter Jr. could perhaps bring in someone like Portland Trailblazers guard CJ McCollum. All of a sudden, the Bulls have a dynamic scoring pair in McCollum and Levine surrounded by growing talent. Alternatively, the Bulls could elect to go with the prospect with the most upside on draft night. They did this last season with White, and it seemed fruitful enough for them to go down that route again this time around. Players like Killian Hayes from France and Deni Avdija from Israel fit that criteria as true wildcards in this class. Both overseas prospects, Hay was a lock to go in the top 3 picks just a few months ago before his stock dropped, and Avdija's potential has been likened to superstar Luka Doncic coming from abroad. Both prospects are not safe bets, but could change a franchise forever if they fulfill their potential. The last avenue the Bulls could go down is trading down in the draft in order to collect more assets. With holes in their roster, there is definitely a need for another guard on the roster. Luckily for them, this draft class is the deepest at the guard position. Because of this, the Bulls have the ability to trade down in the draft and still select a promising guard to join their organization. Trading down will allow the Bulls to collect more assets moving forward, as well as likely having North Carolina's pure scorer, Cole Anthony, or Iowa State Tyrese Halliburton still available for selection. Whatever the Bulls decide, they need to be brave on draft night. The franchise is in a position in which their decision could change the course of their organization for the foreseeable future. What they have done thus far this past decade has been underwhelming, and something needs to change in order to ascend them into relevancy once again. It may be worth their while to pull off a blockbuster trade on draft night. In a class that is seen to be quite shallow in comparison to previous ones, it may be the best time to swing for the fences and accelerate the process. It only takes one big trade to change everything, and it might be time for the Bulls to pull off the unthinkable.